Welcome back to the Elite Ball Knowledge Podcast. Today I'm going to be talking about one of the most polarizing figures in American football, that being Shedeur Sanders, son of Hall of Famer Deion Sanders. He's currently the third string quarterback for the Cleveland Browns, and I'm going to be talking about why he gets so much media coverage, who he is, and is he good at football. So let's get into it. So the first thing I want to start off with, I think we should start from the beginning. Shedeur Sanders won two state championships as a high school quarterback. Now that is something very few people do in their careers in high school. I mean, that's pretty much an understatement, but Shedeur was one of the few. So he actually, not all of it was because of his dad, even though he is heavily influenced by the Sanders name. He got offers from Oregon, Tennessee, Georgia, Bama, South Carolina, and Florida, but he chose Jackson State because of his father. His father decided to coach there, so Shedeur chose it, and they eventually got Travis Hunter to join. So he redshirted for a year, I believe, or he didn't start at all, maybe one or two games at Jackson State. Then he went to Colorado. He played one full season at Jackson State, then went to Colorado, and they had a decent season over there. Shedeur ended up winning the Johnny Unitas Golden Arm Award. He was in the Heisman competition as well. So he played a very good season, which led to in his last season, he got Colorado ranked. They went 9-4, I believe, 9 wins, and he got his jersey retired. So when Shedeur was in college, he had a great career because he broke Colorado's passing record. He was one of the best quarterbacks to play for Colorado. He was a great quarterback in his own right. It's just he didn't play for many of those big name programs like those SEC Big Ten programs. If he had, he would have gotten a lot more national attention from scouts and everything, but he chose to play under his father, get developed by that type of coaching, and it led him to the league. So I think that if Shedeur was on one of these better teams, such as Bama, such as Miami, such as Oregon, such as any of these teams which get consistent 5-star prospects, then he probably would have made the playoffs at least, had a few runs there. I don't know about the national championship because of the defensive caliber of those other teams, but I think that Shedeur Sanders, had he had a better surrounding around him, I mean, Travis Hunter was the bright spot. There are a few good wide receivers that are around him, but if he had the same defensive line and running back that all these other guys had, Shedeur Sanders definitely would have been in that conversation. Definitely, he probably would have won a Heisman, and he definitely would have came close to a national championship, if not winning one, especially if he was on a program like Bama, learning under Nick Saban while he was there. So I do think that his collegiate career, he had a very strong resume in college, and I think the film out there on him really shows that. A lot of people say that Travis Hunter carried him, but when he's not throwing to someone when he's not throwing to Travis Hunter, he's making very good throws. He's throwing under pressure. He's very calm in the pocket, very accurate. And that was also showcased in his pro day. So I think that when Shedeur Sanders, a lot of his film gets overlooked because a lot of people think that he's just been nepotized into this position. Well, that's very not true. It's quite the contrary, because his film will actually show you that he is a great player. His mobility isn't there, and I mean, that's one thing, and he tends to drift in the pocket, but otherwise, he is a very great player from what I've seen. He's very good at accurately placing the ball. He might not have the best arm talent, but he is one of the most accurate quarterbacks I've seen. So I think that had he had a better offensive line, he definitely would have made something with Colorado. I don't think he deserved to get his jersey retired, but Shedeur Sanders was a good quarterback in college nonetheless. It should have gotten him drafted in the first round at least, because there's a reason why he was valued at such a high pick for the most of the time until the last week of the draft, pre-draft process. So I think Shedeur Sanders really played himself into that round 1, round 2 echelon of talent, because I think he was just that good in college. He definitely played to the standard of what Coach Prime held him to. So that's, I think, really exhibits how good he was for Colorado, even because he did do good. He took them to a bowl game, and I think one of the main things is he transforms the programs. That's what he did at Jackson State, and that's what he did at Colorado. So that's also a big factor of what he does, because before with Colorado, his first season there, they barely got any wins. They actually played very well against ranked opponents and powerhouses, but they didn't win. They didn't even have a winning record. They had like 3 or 4 wins around there. They didn't win that much. But the next year, Shedeur took them to a bowl game. He took them to a ranked spot in the nation. So, I mean, what he does and his ability to play football, that's never been in doubt for me, because I know that he can ball and I've seen him ball. Leading up into the NFL draft, Shedeur Sanders was touted as one of the higher quality quarterback prospects in a very weak class. It was between him and Cam Ward for the number 1 spot overall. And obviously we know that the Tennessee Titans decided to go with Cam Ward, partially because he played better during his pro day and he was on a better program, which gave him better surrounding to make better plays. I think Cam Ward is a very talented quarterback, and we've seen that the first 3 weeks of the National Football League. But I do think that Shedeur Sanders was also up there in caliber with the same one. I think that it just came to character, pre-draft interviews, and those circumstances, because I think Shedeur Sanders would have done great on the Titans as well, especially because their head coach worked magic with Joe Burrow. And I think that Shedeur Sanders is much like a pocket passer, just like Joe Burrow. So I think that he would have done well in that situation. But I think Cam Ward is also a physically gifted quarterback, so that was a great pick by Tennessee. He is showing return of investment right there. But going into the draft, Shedeur Sanders did not take part in the combine, but he did do interviews. So apparently, in those interviews, he did not test well. He did not give off a good impression. He was very cocky in those interviews, and he was saying how, if you aren't going to change the program, don't try and get me. And I think that really speaks to his character, his the type of player he is, because he's so used to going into these bad programs and then changing them around. So I think that's what he wanted to carry that momentum with, and I don't think that's what the league wanted. I think he was way too overconfident in those interviews, and I think while he would have been such a good fit with any of these other teams, he definitely interviewed himself out of that spot, which is part of the reason why he fell. I think his pro day was very good. He threw very good balls. I think one of the main criticisms was he was patting the ball before he throws, but everyone does that in the league. It's just he has so much media around him that they caught so much attention. And I do think that he did do a lot of media coverage before the draft. He did music videos. He did videos with Cam Ward. And I think those videos with Cam Ward might have been his undoing, because it really compared and contrasted Cam Ward's mentality, which is this grind set mentality, to Shedeur Sanders' mentality, which was somewhat different in those videos. So Shedeur Sanders honestly is a great quarterback. He should have been drafted really high, but the draft process, he just interviewed himself out of that spot. That's the final. But there have been reports where he denied being drafted by some teams, and I think some Rams legend, I'm not going to say his name, but he did say that the NFL colluded against him. There were a lot of talks of that during his draft slide. And I think towards the end, he was really just grateful to be given this opportunity, and it really humbled him. I mean, he's already a humble guy from what we've seen off the field, but I think this draft experience will really humble him. And that's something I really like to see. Earlier in this preseason for the National Football League, we saw Shedeur Sanders take the field as a Brown against the Panthers, where he had an electric debut, 2 touchdowns, and he really showed off his accuracy there. He really showed off his mobility. I mean, he did get sacked a few times, but that is one of the main problems that he had coming into the pre-draft, was his ability, his tendency to take sacks. But I don't think that should have brought him down to the point where Jalen Milroe and Tyler Shaw were taken in front of him. I do think Jackson Dart is a justifiable pick, but I do think that Shedeur is better than Jackson Dart from what we've seen. Obviously, this is subject to change because Jackson Dart is going to start for the Giants and Shedeur is still a third string. But I feel that he is only a third string because Dylan Gabriel was drafted higher than him, so they have to put him at the second spot. But I do think that what we saw out of Shedeur Sanders during the preseason, especially his first game, really showed why he was in that round 1 conversation. He really played well, played better than the other rookie quarterbacks for sure. And I think the Rams game, that preseason game, that really did not show off his ability, because in that game, he was sacked a lot. He didn't get the opportunities that were necessary for his development, especially because he didn't get the opportunity to lead a 2-minute drive at the end. But he was sacked, and a lot of those players did lead up a lot of sacks on his line. So those highlights are really not an effective way to show his play style, because he really was just put in a scenario where the line was just letting anybody in, and that happened in Colorado too, because I remember last season against Nebraska, he was sacked a lot, and he did call his offensive line out on that. That also could have been a reason why he wasn't drafted, but I do think that what they managed to put up later in the season kind of negates that. So really, Shedeur Sanders had a strong preseason debut. He looked good in practice. He looked great, actually. But unfortunately, the Browns decided to go with Joe Flacco as the starter, put Dylan Gabriel, because of his draft status, ahead of him. So, I mean, that's okay. Shedeur Sanders will bounce back, and I agree with Deion Sanders that he will start this season, because I think he is the future of the Cleveland Browns. If not, he's the future of a different franchise. And he put this in a way that I really agree with. He said that there are a lot of quarterbacks in the league who are playing not the best. This is paraphrasing, by the way. He said that he could play better than some of the quarterbacks in the league. And I think that's very well said. He can definitely be playing better than how Stroud is playing right now, how Tua is playing right now. That's just two off the tip of my tongue. Definitely better than JJ McCarthy and Michael Penix from that last game. So I mean, it's just giving him the opportunity, and he really did talk about that after his first game. He's like, I'm grateful for the opportunity, and that really shows how much he's matured as a player, especially after that process during the draft where he was sitting there for days and days expecting to be drafted, and then he gets humbled by that. So it really was great to see him take responsibility, take leadership, and then lead the team to a win in the preseason. So Shedeur Sanders definitely can ball. He's a great player, and I think that he can become even greater if he's given the opportunity, especially under an offensive-minded coach like Stefanski for the Browns, or even if he's traded to a better coach that will help his development. I did see reports that he did deny being drafted by the Ravens and the Eagles, and I mean, that's just his decision altogether. Coach Prime said that wasn't his decision. It was all Shedeur. So Shedeur, I think he was still in that mindset where he wanted to start. And I think the Browns did give him an opportunity to start. That was a great pickup by him to the Browns. It's just that I think with the Ravens, he could have learned a bit more. The Eagles, he could have learned a bit more, especially under Sirianni and Jalen Hurts. He did learn from Hurts, especially during the preseason, during the joint practices, but I think it would have been better for him to learn on the bench where he could have gone the second string job. But I mean, it is what it is. Nothing can change now. Shedeur Sanders is still a great player nonetheless. And on the Browns, I can't wait to see him start, whether that's in week 6 or week 12 or week 10. It doesn't matter. I can't wait to see Shedeur start, because I know that he's being given this opportunity, and he knows that he can't waste these opportunities anymore. So he knows that he actually has to be locked in. He can't give it up. Once he gets the ball, he can't give it back. That's the way I see it. Now, Shedeur Sanders gets so much coverage because he is the son of a Hall of Fame quarterback. I mean, not cornerback. Corner. And he was really so good in high school, so good in college, but he really brought that kind of energy, that persona to him while he was in the media. He was in Colorado, where he brought the flash. He brought the kind of aura, the kind of shine to everything, where he brought his watch, he brought everything. He brought his excessive personality out there, and that really built a whole following around him, especially in part because of Deion Sanders Jr. He runs Well Off Media, and Well Off Media, a great channel, by the way. You should go subscribe to them. But they cover Shedeur Sanders and the Sanders family, especially Shiloh, and they really build up the media presence, especially, not only are you going to get followers by being a quarterback for a college, especially starting, but with Well Off Media really promoting you and Overtime doing a bunch of stuff with you, you're bound to get a bunch of coverage. So I think he got a bunch of fans and a bunch of haters throughout this method of really getting a bunch of following. And so this was also a big concern by other programs where they wanted to see whether his fans and his presence, media presence, his cultural presence would really disrupt the way the team does things. So I think that's also a reason why he fell in the draft. And he really shouldn't have fell in the draft just because of that. But, I mean, it is what it is. You can't change it now. Shedeur Sanders' media presence really is why he's so popular, why he gets so much coverage. Because of his name, his last name, definitely. And because of his brother definitely promoting his content. He also released a song, Perfect Timing. It's a banger. But that also built the Shedeur Sanders sphere of influence around everyone. So that's why he gets so much coverage, even as a third-string quarterback. A lot of fans are calling for him to start after Flacco's struggles. Even though Dylan Gabriel's still on the depth chart, a lot of fans want to see Shedeur, especially after Dylan Gabriel has been throwing a lot of picks and is looking basically like Tua Tagovailoa and Zach Wilson. So, I mean, partly because of the fans, partly because of his media presence, and partly because of Deion Sanders Jr. promoting him constantly, and partly because of just him being a quarterback as well, and his name. So that's why he's so popular. That's why he gets so much coverage, even as a third string. And I think the day he starts an NFL game for the first time, the media is going to go crazy over him. Fox is going to, if he's on Fox, they're going to run so many angles about him. They're going to talk about him constantly. CBS, the same thing. Everyone's going to talk about Shedeur Sanders because he is that big name player, even though he hasn't even played a snap. Partly because of his dad's name, partly because of how he played in college. It's just the influence he's garnered around that name really makes him a household name, even though he hasn't even played a snap. And that's just something that teams were not really interested in, but it's also something that really the media like gravitates to it like moths to light. That way I see it. If you couldn't already tell, Shedeur Sanders is my favorite player. I made a whole video on him that really speaks out in volumes. But I do think that when he starts, he will be not one of the best, but he'll definitely be in the top half of the league. He might even be better than Cam Ward. I mean, that's not really a high bar considering where the Titans are. But the Browns aren't really higher than the Titans the way I see it. I think the Browns kind of messed it up, though, because they had a lot of picks to draft Shedeur. So it's good that they got him in the 5th. They kind of let that slide keep going every time they passed on him. But they could have drafted Travis Hunter and then reunited that electric Colorado duo that really shook the nation, especially when they started winning games by a lot and by flashier methods, especially against Colorado State or Baylor when they came in clutch. So what I want to leave you guys off on this is that Shedeur Sanders is an amazing player from what we've seen, especially in college. I can just name one play off the tip of my tongue. One of his best plays, the Hail Mary against Baylor to send it to overtime. That was an amazing game. Amazing throw by Shedeur. He was off platform, hit as he threw. I mean, just what a play. And I'll continue saying it. He's a great player, and he should have been taken in round 1. But that's besides the point, because if you give your quarterback garbage time reps, he'll play for a game. But if you give your quarterback reps for starting reps, he'll play for a career. And I want to see the latter for Shedeur, not the former, for sure. And it really is perfect timing that I'm making this video because there's still media coverage around Shedeur, especially because of the Ravens and Eagles thing. But I think that when he does start, it'll be legendary and it will be perfect timing because the Browns will just then recognize that he's their future. Not Deshaun Watson, not Joe Flacco, definitely not Dylan Gabriel. It will be Shedeur Sanders. So I can't wait to see that happen. And a lot of people hate on him because of his dad, gave him a lot of stuff. But that's not true because he did get offers from colleges that probably that were not all because of his dad. He didn't just go to Colorado because his dad wanted him there. He could have went to Tennessee, Oregon, Bama, all these quarterbacks. Even he had the opportunity to play under Nick Saban, and he chose his dad over that. So it's really him as a person. I mean, that was his personal decision. But also people hating on Shedeur Sanders. He's a great guy outside. He's done multiple charity events. So the haters on Shedeur Sanders should like look at the film if they're calling him bad at football. But if they're calling him like a genuinely like overconfident person, they should look at what he does outside of the field too. So what I want to leave you guys on is that Shedeur Sanders is a great player, and he's good at football. He's really good at football, in my opinion. And he gets a lot of media coverage from his dad and his brother and well-off media and his social media presence, his flashiness, but he's a great player, and he's my favorite player. So I wanted to leave you guys that he will start, he will be good. You got to give him time, and when he gets the opportunity, just like Tom Brady, I'm not saying he is Tom Brady, but just like Tom Brady, he'll put his foot on the gas and he won't look back. He won't give that opportunity back up. Because once he starts, he's going to keep that ball forever. He won't ever give it back to Dylan Gabriel. So that's what I want to say. Thank you guys for watching another Elite Ball Knowledge episode. Make sure to drop a like, subscribe, follow my Instagram. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed the video.